So welcome, Suzanne. It's a great pleasure to see you.
How are you? Nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. So maybe, Suzanne, the best place for us to start could be for you to explain a little bit to our audience what your company does and its business model, because you're quite an unusual telco, if I can call you that.
Yeah,
So that might be a
absolutely.
good place to start. Thank you.
Okay, righto. Well, I just introduced myself. So, as you say, I'm the CTO, so I'm the Chief Technology Officer in SIRO. I'm in telecoms over 25 years, and until SIRO, all of that was on the mobile side. So I worked mainly in IT, running IT operations, uh, moving then into kind of consolidation, data center consolidation, application consolidation, all of that with Vodafone. And I moved into SIRO 9 years ago. And SIRO was a joint venture between Vodafone Ireland and ESB, ESB being the state-owned electric company. So the objective of SIRO was to roll out a full fibre or a fibre only network throughout regional Ireland, because it was considered at the time when the kind of competition authority ruled that it was fair and just for the electric company to go into partnership with the telco and start to roll out a fibre network, that the cities were well catered for. So we started our plan in 2015, 2016, targeting the regional towns. But soon into that plan, we started to move into the cities because we realized that there was actually a lot of shortfall in the availability of decent broadband and speeds. So moving that along, Ireland has a premise count of 2.1 million. And SIRO's first ambition was to pass, that's the term we use, premise pass 450,000 of that 2.1 million. We're now up at 630,000 premises passed. We'll get to 700,000 premises by the end of this year, 2025. Our ambition doesn't stop there. We will continue to target all of the new developments. So, like many countries in Europe, there's a housing crisis and a housing shortage. So there's a huge amount of new development happening. So we will continue to build out into all of those new developments as we go forward. So what has changed in our lifespan, which is quite young, we only turn 10 later this year, is that we disrupted the market as the first wholesale only telco offering full fibre to residential customers. And the incumbent Air responded and obviously has built out quite a lot. And then the state aid reaching out to all the regional parts of the country, the remote parts of the country, that's also in year 3. So Ireland, as a small nation, a small country, is actually very, very well served with fibre now. And in addition to that, in the last 12 to 18 months, Liberty Global, Virgin Media have upgraded their cable network, which is mainly in cities, to fibre. So we have a lot of fibre. There's still lots of black spots. We obviously have to finish out our plan, and there's new developments, but there's quite a bit of competition now. We didn't have competition when we started, but I suppose what differentiates SIRO to the other two wholesale operators is that we don't have a retail. We wholesale to all retailers. So Vodafone obviously would be a tier 1 retailer. Sky would be a tier 1 retailer. Virgin can also sell on our network. And there's multiple then smaller, more regional retailers that access the SIRO network. But I suppose really we're very pure in that sense. We are a true altnet, and we don't have our own retail. So I think that's probably slightly different. And I suppose the other differentiator is that we only have a fibre network. We're not connecting to any legacy. We're not trying to upgrade any legacy. We rolled out. We started with GPON, and we were up to 1 gig, but we're now 10 gig enabled countrywide, and we're testing 50 gig. So we're moving up that scale all the time.
So really, you've been in a build phase. You're different from most telcos because of where you started. You started from fibre, so there's no upgrading, no. So that's quite interesting. What happens when you get out of the build phase, and also, as you said at the beginning, you didn't have any competitors, but you sure do now.
Yes, yes. So
So,
obviously our first challenge was to learn how to build on an electric network. So I suppose that's another differentiator. We are rolling out fiber on an existing carrier network. So that means that we have access to the ducts and the poles of
right,
the
yeah.
electric network. So it's another, I suppose, it's sustainable in that we're not recreating and we're not opening up ground or digging unnecessarily. But you're absolutely right. Our first challenge initially, when we had that target of the 450,000 premises, was to learn how to do it, and it was all around cost and pace. We could never, it was very challenging to get the business case cost per home, and also to have an output month on month that would generate a sales campaign that would kind of hold the interest of retailers. And we're continuously learning, but we probably started at the four opposite corners of the country, which you know had a purpose, but it also had a challenge because
Yeah.
you couldn't get enough synergies in the early days, and we really needed to kind of get to a critical mass where we could start to connect more. So we had to get orders, to get connections, to learn how to get good at that as well. But I think that's what we want. We have the best in class service delivery, which is where we connect the customers for on behalf of our retailers. We have first connection target, or we actually have first connection rates of 90%. So if you placed an order this afternoon, and if there was an appointment availability tomorrow, we could potentially connect you tomorrow, and you would have your 1 gig plus broadband tomorrow afternoon. Having said that, if you choose that you don't want to place your appointment for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or out into the future, you'll still get it connected. 90% chance you're going to get connected on day one, which is something that the market, didn't have.
No, not at all.
And having said that, obviously, back to the rising tide lifts all boats. The competition are getting much more focused
Yeah,
and targeted on
yeah.
their delivery as well, and it is improving. So we have to keep inventing ways of holding our position there, and staying ahead, because we certainly, we worked hard at getting to that point and building that trust. So when retailers give us orders, give us their customers, they know that we will absolutely connect them and they'll have a very good experience.
So you have all the service providers as customers. Can you tell me, explain a little bit about the relationship with 5G and mobile networks? Because obviously, it's easy to forget sometimes when we talk about wireless networks, actually, how profoundly reliant they are, and that they're very nearly all fixed wireless, actually. There's only the air bit that's the mobile, isn't it? And I think sometimes we forget that. So we need backhaul, we need front haul, and that's all got to be fibre.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, fiber network enables all telecoms, all
Yeah.
communication. Um, and like, I mean, again, I suppose my career has shifted. When I started in telecoms, it was mobile. It was all mobile, and fixed was kind of like, it was so old fashioned because it was
I was going to say,
landline.
it's very
It was out of
boring.
date.
So
Yeah,
many
so that
old
was
fashioned
that
stuff.
was kind of considered Sleepy Hollow, and all the action was in mobile. And absolutely, it was, it's been phenomenal, the growth and the changes over the years in telecommunications. And it was all about voice. Like in the early days when I joined in 1999, I was working on a Y2K program, testing the billing software, because we were expecting the world to end on New Year's Eve,
Yeah,
and it didn't.
yeah.
But it has changed so much. Like, it was voice and text, voice and text. And actually, within a year, in the year 2000, you could access the internet from a mobile device, but it didn't render on your screen. It
It
wasn't
was very
usable.
painful though.
So it really didn't work until the smartphone, and
Yeah,
as in it didn't take until the smartphone was released in later, kind of in around 2008. And then we had all of the apps, and then all of the usage, and how that has shifted all of the activity to everyone's mobile. So it's all, your entry point is your mobile phone, but actually it's supported hugely by fixed fiber networks behind. I mean, fiber, as I said, enables all telecoms, but it provides, high capacity, low latency network, fixed network, which then in turn supports or complements the 5G, which in a mobile, I suppose to simplify it, in a mobile context, mobile connectivity, it's a bit like how Wi-Fi works in the home. So it's what carries the signal.
yeah.
And that's the 5G is ultra reliable, and it's also low latency. So that provides another communication medium then for dynamic and mobile devices.
How much of the traffic your network carries is generated by mobile, Suzanne?
We would be like, so we would provide fixed into the premise.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, the mobile device within the premise, yes, it's I can't remember the stats, but it's well over 60-70%, I would say. And
Wow.
even how
Okay.
people watch how they utilize Netflix, and it's on tablets. It's not necessarily on TV screens anymore. Even how they read news, so or how they how they ingest it. So it is very, very high from a mobile device perspective, and the number of devices is increasing all the time. So the number of devices connected to a Wi-Fi router in a premise that has a fiber connection is increasing all of the time.
And how do you see AI improving your business and the synergy between different kinds of networks? I mean,
So I
you
mean,
mentioned even just amongst your own workforce, for example, is made a
yeah. Well, I can start with the workforce first. I mean, obviously, I mean, it took me a while when I started in SIRO to realize that it's a construction project first and foremost.
Mhm.
So, and that was a surprise. I thought it was all going to be all about gigabit society and gigabit infrastructure and speeds, and we'd all be in the pop cabin all day looking at the wonders of it. But actually, 95% of the effort is in the route to that, and the digging and constructing the network itself. So we have two very different um, profiles of staff in SIRO. So we have field based and office based, and the office based ultimately are mainly analytical. So we would have finance, IT, and commercial. So IT obviously supporting the other entities, but I suppose there's two kind of core uses with AI. That would be we have Power BI, which is a Microsoft tool where we're constantly looking at where we have built our network and what's connected, and what's not connected, and what's potentially going to churn. So that would the IT team and the BI team would be working very closely with commercial there, and how we understand before customers might churn, because they're actually our retailers' customers, but they're connected to the network. So so we're trying to build a view of that in advance and understand how to manage or how to campaign towards that positively to retain or to win back. So that's kind of one very kind of clear and discrete use
And do you
of
provide
BI.
that information to your retail
We
customers?
would share, yeah, we absolutely
But
would
that
share.
if you're a retail customer, you must appreciate that info.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Very
Yeah, yeah,
valuable info. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And we have to stay that close to it because, I love building the network. I've really enjoyed the opportunities I've had and the autonomy and all the learning. But if I can't connect at the right pace, it
Yeah.
impacts the ability to keep
Yeah.
building.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's very, very related. So that's kind of how we would support kind of, the network activity. But then on the kind of back office IT side, the software development obviously would also use AI and Copilot for code, writing code and testing it. And it acts like a kind of a senior developer. So it can query it, it can literally like mark the homework or test it in advance or make recommendations. So that'd be another kind of day-to-day use case where we use it. But then in total contrast to that for the field-based team, so we have crews that connect customers every day. They're in premises on behalf of our various different retailers. So obviously health and safety is key. We're also building on an electric network, slightly different,
Yeah.
but just purely the same for all people with crews on the road. They're all driving. So the fleet management system. So one of our key partners has installed internal cameras and external cameras, and it's watching and monitoring the driver behavior all day, and then it produces like a dashboard for the team leader in the evening, and then the team leader can have a call each morning with his crew base and share that information. So you may be driving too close. You may have a habit of driving too close to the car in front of you. Yeah, there was.
I suspect that's quite common.
Overtaking, whatever it might be, but it's really
Yeah.
it's not to chastise. It's just to help reduce accidents, and it works. And they share the information, and it's all about just getting better at it. And we also would, for all our own fleets as well, we would monitor like speeding offences. And it's not to name and shame, it's just to help you to understand. And it's often not at high speed, it's just where speed changes in urban
Yeah.
areas.
Yeah.
You know, like one of the outcomes from that driving was that one of the drivers was blinking a lot, and that can indicate tiredness. But in this case, it was an eye test. You know, so it's all positive. It's all to help.
It's
Um,
interesting, isn't
so
it?
yes, yeah.
Okay, so do you feel like these improvements and efficiencies are helping you? Because I mean, you started off a disruptor, but the trouble with being a disruptor is you kind of turn into part of the establishment if you're not
Well, yeah.
careful. And continuing to disrupt is kind of quite a tough gig. Sorry about the pun. Um, so, I mean, do you feel like the AI is helping you with that, thinking about doing things differently and better,
Absolutely.
and better for the competition?
Yeah, so it's like, again, it's back to the evolution and advances in technology. You know, where I started out in telecoms, and it was very sophisticated then that everyone had a phone in their hand. You know, even if it
Oh
was
God, yeah.
quite big and clunky, you know, that you could talk to anyone anywhere, and that was always the ambition. But it just keeps evolving and it keeps advancing, and it's no different for what we're doing day to day. While you know, rolling out the network is quite fundamental. It's either you're either digging holes or you're climbing poles, but in reality, what it does or where to go, you know, so we're all the time using data to make decisions, and that would have been from the beginning. But you just have to layer on the intelligence and the sophistication, and to get sharper, so you can make this decisions quicker. You know, it's high cost. The business
Yeah.
that we're in
Yeah,
is
yeah.
high cost. The return is slightly different. You know, a monthly subscription to broadband isn't very high, but the cost, the initial capex cost to build it out is significant. So, you know, it's not just our organization; it's the whole ecosystem. Everybody is very tuned, and you have to be all the time looking to see if there's anything else that's going to help you make the right decision or give you an edge. Um,
So
and
it
like,
might help you with network planning, for example, but I'm also thinking as you started off as a fiber company,
mhm.
and I'm also thinking you're only 10, which compared with most
We're
telcos,
not 10 yet. Yeah, we're
it's,
9.5.
it's almost fetal, isn't it? So young. I'm just thinking as well that maybe did you begin knowing that you wanted to be data driven because you had the advantage of kind of seeing what being data driven did for the hyperscalers. So, whereas I think old telco just used to see data quite often as a sort of byproduct, really, I think.
Yeah, and I think we probably from the early days would have been very data focused, but it's probably the management team would have been very tuned to that. The
But I'm
finance
just
and the
thinking, because that's
CEO.
the
Yeah,
raw
absolutely. Yeah,
material for
yeah.
AI, isn't it?
It is. It is. Yeah. But I mean, it's kind of it's a very sophisticated lessons learned. It's adding all the time to what to you know to the database or the knowledge base or the wiki or you know what we had in IT support teams years ago. It's just getting much more usable. Like the fact that you could access the internet on a WAP phone in 2000, but you just couldn't use it to the smartphone. You know, it just
Yeah.
evolves. Um, so definitely, like we continue to evolve and we continue to utilize the tools that are available. We've probably in you know in our phase one and phase two, because we would have had a second round of funding, and how we build and make decisions now. The build method, yes, it's tuned, but it's largely the same. But it's the selection and the
It's a selection of sites
of sites, yes, yeah,
and and the
and
sequencing,
and the
presumably,
sequencing,
is
yeah, and learning how to, it's more modular, you know, a bit more like building blocks, and then you get a much more predictable delivery, and then you're much more consistent, and then your retailers will plan campaigns knowing that you will be delivering what you said you would deliver in the area you said you would. So it all becomes,
I'm also wondering about sustainability in 2000, was it 2022? Maybe 2021. I remember Vodafone saying that the spike in energy costs had cost it an additional 300 million a year just in the electricity. But also for many other reasons, we need to be, all of us,
yeah.
more green, more ecologically friendly. And I mean, are you planning or are you using AI in your networks and synergies with green ends, should we say, in mind?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously fiber networks are less, are, you know, are more power efficient. So they use less power.
Mean than copper.
then
Okay,
copper, right? So that's all of the pop stations. So every every kind of start point in all of your towns and villages.
yeah.
So that's immediately that's a step change. But we're building on an existing network, which obviously gives us a significant step in sustainability. But the fact that it's what it's doing to society, it's enabling connectivity, which is reducing lots of travel. It's reducing lots of other means of carbon emissions. So it all contributes to a different outcome. But ultimately, I suppose what you're possibly what you're referring to there with Vodafone again, and I would have known historically, like and you asked earlier, mobile phone usage is going up all the time.
Yeah, frighteningly, really.
It's revenue's not going up to match it,
No.
so the cost is going up to maintain the same, like to maintain your customer base. So some it's just tightening and tightening, and that would definitely be it. But obviously the energy, the hike in energy throughout various different crises would have had a huge impact, because it's significant enough because there's so many sites to be powered to manage to continue to give everyone connectivity 24 hours a day, 365 days of the year, in every corner, like 4G, 5G coverage, 95%, 98%, 99% throughout the whole country. So that has a very big power bill attached to it.
Suzanne, we've got a question from our audience. Benjamin asks, do you see any opportunity in or even exploring wireless wireline conversion? Which I guess is kind of what I've been trying to drive at, really, is are you going to get more synergy from different kinds of networks? Because to me, you've got the kind of base level that everybody needs.
So we have the base level. Yes, we can't get to every corner of the country because it's cost prohibitive. But as a full fiber company, we recognize there's other technologies, but we're pure fiber at the moment. But that doesn't mean that wireless
you're not
doesn't work.
planning. Well, I suppose
But
you
we're
could
not
tell us
planning.
if you
No,
were. You could tell us
no.
if you were. But so there's no plans to go wireless, which kind of I find a bit strange because of your heritage with Vodafone, really. But
Yeah,
okay.
but I mean, Vodafone have wireless solutions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And I'm just thinking in sustainability. I've seen a lot about power saving in mobile networks, but of course you're more about fiber. So
Mhm.
I know I'm just wondering if is there any thinking about switching stuff off overnight and being able to detect when things are inactive, or maybe it doesn't work like that on a fiber network like it does on mobile.
Yeah, well, I mean, you all the time have to test yourself and test options. And even as we talked about the kind of high intensity build phase, and then we're very focused on connections, but ultimately we're focused on operating the network that we've built now as well. And AI will serve a purpose there because it'll tell us where our high traffic is and when our high traffic is, and how to predict whether it's an upgrade, a capacity upgrade, or potentially a power down for the same reason, so to try and balance that. And, every percent counts, whether it's cost saving or energy saving. And as we get more kind of, monitored, we're going to be submitting more and more our stats on how we're performing against that. It's going to encourage lots and lots of innovation around that area. We've just come out through a very significant storm
Yes,
over
we
the
noticed
last
that.
over the last
Seriously
5 or 6
terrifying.
days, and we actually we lost power to a number of sites.
Yeah,
We didn't lose service because we went to battery and then we went to generator. So there's we've lots of resilience, but we have to continually question if the resilience is effective and cost effective, and is there a better and more a more energy or a more sustainable option.
that's interesting, all that actually, because it looks like storms are going to be more and more
Yes.
prevalent. It's
Yeah.
not going
Yeah.
to be a
Yeah.
freak once in
Yeah.
a decade or once in a lifetime sort of thing.
And
Um,
and we were lucky, and like we are partnered with the electric company, and they have
oh
suffered
yeah,
far
sure.
greater power outages than we have with fiber. Clearly, they're in every corner of the country. We're only in a portion of it, but our infrastructure has proven to be climate resilient as well, which is really, really good. The incumbent would be still under a huge amount of pressure now because they have much more poles in their network, where we have a combination of underground and overhead network.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Would it be fair to say, I know we're out of time, would it be fair to say that regarding AI, it feels, talking to you, like you're experimenting or using AI in lots of different places for incremental improvements, rather than you think it's going to be a kind of really big bang leap forward?
Yes, for our business purposes.
Yes, of course.
But ultimately it could and hopefully will drive demand for our business for more fibre. So hopefully that's a positive outcome. But we are looking to see. I mean, we know we're embracing it, but clearly we have to manage the risk. So we're working on our AI policy actually, and we have Copilot on the desktop. Like, it's a part of the Microsoft package for all of the users. But again, as I said, the profile of our staff is quite different. So it would be more the analysts that would have use for it. But we can see the benefit of it, like at the Microsoft Office level, where it is effective and it is efficient, and we can all learn from it. Even for time management, if it's going to do the minutes for you, why would you step out and start writing them up again? It's just about building, understanding how to use it and utilize it and trust it.
Actually, you saying that about the storm and everything's just made me think that I think in November last year that Moody's ratings for the first time ever put telecoms into a very high risk category.
Yeah.
So that clearly is something we all need to grapple with.
Yeah.
Suzanne, it's been a pleasure. Thank you
very much,
very much for your time and your input. We hope to see you again in future. And in the meantime, enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.